Hello and welcome to the Crumbs on the Carpet podcast. My name is Justin and joining me today are...
Connor.
Dylan.
John.
You're actually here in the booth today.
Yeah, hey.
Yeah,
Special
John is
guest.
officially Barrick for this week, so...
and so...
That is being cruel.
I mean...
Now we gotta ask you about your cardboard box at the end.
Oh, Lord.
That's not something I know about. I don't listen to this podcast.
Alright, so today... So, 2 weeks ago, we recorded a podcast, or we released a podcast, on Last Shift. And Connor and I went on towards the end a little bit on a tangent about ending narratives, basically. And how certain narratives can get overplayed, or you can actually lose your audience if you go on too long. Stuff like that. And so I think today, I know I'm going to be focusing on comic books because that's my area of expertise, pretty much.
Mine is more anime manga, so I can go there.
Yeah.
I am a jack of all trades, and so I'm going to get overshadowed by every single person here.
No,
'Cause
you're
I
just
know a
gonna
little
help
bit
us
about everything.
further our stuff.
Yeah, sure.
And then Dylan's just here. He's playing Digimon.
Well, I'm here for extra commentary on what I know about that y'all bring up.
So, do you want to start? Because I know you and I actually have concrete topics to talk about. Yeah, do you want me to start?
Yeah, you go ahead and start.
Okay. I have not actually wanted to pick up a comic book in like 5 years.
So, I picked up a comic book the other day. I had no clue what was going on. I think that piles into your comment about it, too.
So, Marvel has been... Okay, well, let's go back to DC Let's go to DC for a second. So, DC is notorious for the constant reboots, constant reinventions of their classic characters. So it goes all the way back to like the Crisis on Infinite Earth in 1986 or 85. I can't remember. It doesn't matter. It's the late 80s. They rebooted their entire storyline. 5 years later, they did it again with 0 Hour. Another almost 10 years later, or it feels like if you look at the date, it's like, yeah, it was like 10 years, but it actually felt like 5 years. They did Infinite Crisis where they kind of did it again, and then Final Crisis. So they kept. Then they did the New 52 thing in 2011,
So,
and now they're on DC Rebirth.
which one of those was their midlife crisis?
Honestly, I would have to say...
All of them.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
So, like, continuity from 0 Hour to Infinite Crisis. So 0 Hour is, I think, 92, and Infinite Crisis was 03, 04, I think. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on those dates. I'm not that kind of comic book nerd. I try to be sometimes. I'm not that good. That was when I grew up, so I got used to knowing Superman during this time period. I think there was the John Byrne series. I know Superman Birthright was in the late 2000s, just before Infinite Crisis, or just after it, to redefine Superman's origin. But like, I got to know the Superman from the 90s, basically, where he was still the most powerful hero there, but at the same time, like, he was toned down significantly. Like, you could still feasibly overpower him if he didn't know how strong you were.
See, I know nothing about DC, and the only thing I know about Marvel is from the movies, because picking up comics is intimidating to me.
Well, that's the thing. Like, that's one reason why in Marvel the movies have been such a success. So what they've done is condensed a lot of their comic book material down to this like pure essence, and they're letting new viewers, new readers coast on it. And so a lot of the times the comic books are still trying to reflect the movies. So like, I know there was a push for a while with Iron Man. So in 2008 when Iron Man 1 came out, suddenly they realized they had a hit, and all of their comic books were now, Iron Man is now the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. Iron Man is now this guy. Iron Man is everywhere. And it was cool.
I'm glad the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. didn't last very long.
Well, then Norman Osborn killed the Skrull and
Became president.
And basically became president, and things didn't work out too well for a while. Ares got ripped in half, which was cool. But yeah, so with Marvel, they haven't really been good about, or they haven't been notorious with reboots, so they don't just throw away all their continuity. Except for they kind of do. Because, like, writers will forget where they were going, and like they'll set up. Like I remember in the 2000s, that was like a glory decade for Marvel.
And let's not forget, if somebody has writer's block, what's the best way to get over it? Let's kill a character. And then they regret killing that character.
And somehow comic book logic brings it back.
Also, there's like a whole hierarchy of like comic book writers being super petty and like
Yeah.
writing over each other. Like, I don't want this character to be like this. I want it to be like this, and then they just rewrite everything that the last person set up for.
Well, it's like, and I've talked to you guys about it. I don't know if I've mentioned on the podcast before. I hate Frank Miller. I can't stand him. And I think he wouldn't be able to stand me either. Like, my favorite character in DC is Superman.
Meh.
And his least favorite character in DC is either Superman or the Green Lantern. And the Green
Unless-
Lantern's one of my top. Like,
Unnecessarily overpowered, but yes.
well, that's part of the point of the characters.
Yes.
I mean, that's
Um,
the part of the point of comic books and stuff like that. You have the fantasy
Okay,
and
but-
all that.
So here's my problem with Superman, is the fact that they gave him a weakness and then stopped caring about the weakness.
It's a dumb weakness too.
Yeah, it's
it's
just stupid.
really...
Yeah.
He dies to a rock.
He dies
From
to a
his
rock,
own
and then
planet.
the rock also stops affecting him at a point where, like, Kryptonite at one point, like, straight up killed him and neutralized all of his powers. Now it's like it gives him a bad cough.
Yeah. I don't like Kryptonite, so I tend to ignore it. In fact, I was upset when New 52 introduced Kryptonite as a potential thing.
Yeah.
Like that, I was like, don't do that. Just don't show him being, because one of his powers is being infinitely strong.
But the song is pretty good, right?
Yeah, the song's cool. 3 doors down for the win. But yeah, I can't stand Kryptonite. But I don't, it's neither here nor there. I'm talking about Frank Miller for a second. So Frank Miller hates Superman.
Dumb green
He's
glow.
gone on record saying he hates Superman. In fact, when he wrote The Dark Knight Rises, that's the one
One
where
of
old
those
man, the
movies?
old man,
The,
Batman,
Yeah.
or
no,
Dark Knight Returns.
yeah. It's not Dark
Um,
Knight Rises. That's the movie. I was
yeah.
like trying to like wrap my head around what you were saying. I was like, Frank Miller
Yeah,
didn't
Dark Knight
write that movie.
Returns. Well, he was based on Dark Knight Returns
Yes.
to an extent.
Well, it was really more based on.
Yeah, I know, but like it took a lot of influence from Dark Knight Returns. Is what I'm saying.
Yes.
That being said, like when he wrote that, he wrote Superman as the antagonist just so he could have Batman kick Superman's ass.
Yep.
And feasibly, that would never happen. No, it was Batman v Superman that took a lot of influence from Dark Knight.
Okay,
Rises.
I was wondering where
Or
you were going
Returns,
with that
excuse
because
me.
I was saying
Yeah.
that Dark Knight Rises was based off of the.
Yeah,
I'm
I
trying to remember the name of the
was it No
series.
Man's Land
No,
or
it was
Batman's not my area of expertise. So
I have all three of them at home on the shelf, and I'm struggling with it.
yeah, we have
Nightfall.
a few.
It's
Nightfall. Yeah.
That
With
was
Bane,
Ni- yes.
Bane breaking Batman's back. That's right.
That's the Nightfall series.
And
that was based
Azrael
off.
took.
Azrael took the cowl and
Yeah.
then became like Metal Batman. It was cool for a while, but
Well,
he
it
was
was the
like then
90s.
started killing people. So whatever.
Yeah.
Anyways,
But yeah, so like Batman's not my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Like I know enough about Batman so I can have a conversation about Batman, but I've never really gotten into the character. I mean, clearly, like I said, I'm a Superman fanboy. But
Batman.
yeah, so Frank Miller actually just wrote that story, or wrote Superman as the bad guy, basically so he can show
I mean,
Batman
he
kicking
could
Superman's
be.
ass.
well, I mean, so like the point of that story was like Superman was like controlled by the government at that point.
I mean, loosely. The
Yeah,
thing is,
but-
like, Batman was back, and he like. So I don't want to analyze the story as if it was like Batman was wrong,
Yeah.
because he was correct,
Mhm.
but he wouldn't actually have the conversation with Superman about
No.
reforming his actions, because he was also like, even though he was doing the right thing, coming back and cleaning Gotham up again, like it could have been better.
That
Maybe
being
just
said,
been
also
nice.
like you have to think about the dynamic
It's
between
Batman. Yeah.
Batman and Superman, where it's Superman has an amount of respect for Batman in any story in which they're both involved.
And Batman doesn't really care.
Batman does not care about anyone, but everyone respects Batman. It's
Yeah.
like I saw. This wasn't actually in any comic book, but in Young Justice,
Yeah.
there was actually an episode where the two teams like kind of met and they were fighting over who was like supposed to lead. And
Yeah.
Batman walked in and started handing out orders, and even somebody said,
I remember that.
"Did the leadership just shift really hard?" And it's like, yeah, it did.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't show any respect to Batman because I don't like him.
If
Well,
I were
you can-
Superman, like, I wouldn't care.
If you were face to face with Batman, like real Batman, all the stories were true.
But if I'm
you have
Superman-
to have an amount of like reverence
No,
there.
I
But if
don't
I'm
like him.
Superman,
I'm
like literally the moment in Batman v Superman, he takes out like the rocket launcher at me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna giggle, super speed to him, rip the rocket launcher apart,
That's what he
rip him
did.
out of his armor, and throw him to the sun.
Okay, so he can't do that last part because he's a Boy
I know,
Scout.
he's a good guy. I would threaten it.
Sure.
No,
But yeah,
that's
anyway.
an empty threat then.
But yeah, so every time Frank Miller takes over a series with a legitimate super, because he doesn't like superhumans, not really. He likes more of the street level characters like Daredevil and Batman. And honestly, his Daredevil run was one of the best runs of Daredevil I've ever read.
Moon Knight.
But when you get, don't even get me started. I hate Moon Knight.
I love Moon Knight. My
What?
dad loves Moon Knight.
He's just a nuts Batman.
It is. It's great.
But anyway, whenever he gets in a story with a legitimate superhuman, he basically just screws that superhuman over and puts like the street level hero center stage.
Yeah.
And so when the next writer comes in, it's basically like, oh yeah, we forgot Frank Miller wrote this, right? And Frank Miller does the same thing to the previous writers, like who set up that superhuman character.
Yep.
And so there's this constant writer cycle on top of the fact that they have this constant need to keep things fresh. So that brings us to the central point here, or me to the central point of comic books. They need endings. So Alan Moore went on record when he was working for DC by saying that comic books are the modern American mythology.
Yes.
So, like, in 1,000 years from now, say we're all dead and gone. I mean, we're going to be dead and
we're
gone
gonna
in
be
1,000
dead in
years.
1,000 years.
Hopefully.
Says you.
God, let me die soon.
But yeah, so
Going for the record.
they unearth some kind of comic book. Like, suddenly Doctor Who is our mythology. Or
Yeah.
suddenly...
No.
It's so
or
funny.
suddenly Superman is the Hercules.
No.
Can you imagine, like, for all this time we thought, like, Romans and Greeks actually believed that stuff, and it was like...
But it was literally just what their
No, we
equivalent
were
of
just,
Doctor Who.
we were
Yeah.
just, like, joking. What? You
Yeah.
think we believe
No,
that stuff?
that was just fandom and their
Yeah,
fanfic.
I totally want to, like, have that conversation with a Roman where it's like, did you think we were stupid?
You read my
You realize
Zeus
we created,
X-Brain
like-
fanfic?
Yeah.
Did you realize we, like, created math, right? And you thought we believed that?
Either that or it's just like you read my Zeus X whatever
But he
fanfic.
felt, but Alan Moore actually felt that in order for comic books to have the significance that they deserved, and they deserve the significance of being modern mythology, that's what they are, they have to end. So he penned Twilight of the Superheroes. Now, it was never published. There was a leak of it online after Kingdom Come came out, and almost like page for page, beat for beat, Kingdom Come was Twilight of the Superheroes. So if you're curious as to what Twilight of the Superheroes would have been, go read Kingdom Come, and you'll get like a distilled, more positive take on it. Before you read that and think, oh well, Kingdom Come's just a ripoff of it. Actually, they were pinned almost independently of one another. It was just a happy accident that they were basically the same story. That being said, like, that ended the DC universe.
Well,
in the
I mean,
90s, essentially.
even Marvel had an ending.
Well, Marvel had a The End, and then they also had Universe X, the Earth X Universe X series, which was also written by the same people who did Kingdom Come. So Marvel saw Kingdom Come and said, we want that for our universe. And so they had the Earth X, Universe X, Paradise X trilogy.
And like, if they had ended all of those characters like that and then went on to new stories, new things, and left those characters there.
Well, I'm sure they tried, but it's really hard
See,
to kill Superman, as you will find out if reading any of his comics.
Yeah.
In
Well,
his own comic
the whole
book.
90s was basically like, here's this popular character everyone loves. Here's a character designed specifically to kill them or incapacitate them for a presumably long period of time or permanent, depending on how they wanted it to be. It was never actually intended to be permanent. Like Doomsday was literally just intended to kill Superman.
Yep.
Bane was invented purely to incapacitate Batman.
Correct.
It goes on. So there's this constant need to refresh stuff because of the fact that they don't want to let these stories end. And so I want to get to there's two main characters that there's a lot of contention about right now in Marvel. The first of which is Thor. So, and the other one is Iron Man. Remind me to bring up Ironheart in a second when I get done talking about Thor.
Riri.
Yeah, Riri Williams. So Thor is no longer Thor, by the way.
Yep.
Wasn't Jane Foster
Jane
Thor?
Foster
Jane Foster
is
is
currently
Thor.
Thor.
And she also has like cancer too, right?
She has cancer in
They
her
call her
human
Thor
form.
Girl.
Well, no, there's already a Thor girl.
Oh.
The fans call her Thor girl because not really the fans of the story, Marvel fans, quote unquote. Basically, they're gamergaters.
Yeah.
They hate the idea that a female character is now in the role of their beloved character, which I understand that. They basically killed off.
Magic
So
Mike.
Thor is now Odin's son.
Yeah, Thor is now the Odin son, and he no longer has Mjolnir.
Nope. He has Stormbreaker, which is not the same thing.
He doesn't have Stormbreaker. He has Yonbjorn.
Okay.
Was an axe. Stormbreaker is still Beta Ray Bills.
Okay. Oh no. Okay. So Stormbreaker is Beta Ray Bills. Yeah, I know that.
Yeah.
But the Stormbreaker in the actual movie,
Oh yeah,
Infinite, is based on
Yonbjorn.
Yonbjorn.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting confused here.
So I want to say it was 2013. There was an event called Fear Itself. No, not Fear Itself. It was the one with the Watcher's eyes. Where
I only read like many contained stories like White Knight and stuff like that from Batman and like a couple others. But I read contained stories. I don't get into the big overarching stories.
I'm googling it now because I can't remember the name of the original Sin. So in the original Sin storyline, Nick Fury basically, spoilers for it, Nick Fury kills Uatu, the Watcher, steals his eyes.
No, I like Uatu.
Steals his eyes, and his eyes these are eyes that have watched the entire history of Earth, and so he basically has all of the secrets of Earth.
Oh yeah, isn't
Good
this the one
job,
where he's trapped on the
Fury.
moon?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know this one.
So Nick Fury, you find out that no incarnation you've seen of Nick Fury is the real Nick Fury. They're all LMDs, life model decoys, and that the real Nick Fury has been on the moon for the entire history of Marvel, basically.
As
It's
he
really funny.
does.
Yeah.
Because it's like he
That was a
just
running
knew-
joke.
okay,
That is, am I
Dylan?
really dealing with the real Nick Fury? It was a running joke for a while, and now it was confirmed. No one ever dealt with the real Nick Fury ever since World War II. He's been on the moon, chilling, watching Uatu.
I don't think he's okay now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he's
so
like-
he kills Uatu, steals his eyes. He now has the combined history of all of Earth, all of its secrets, all of its dirty little crevices. And
As
he
one does.
whispers in Thor's ear, and suddenly Thor is no longer worthy to hold Mjolnir.
Okay, so how do you get all of these memories from taking someone's eyes?
because it's Marvel and this is a god. So and also like in god mythology it's like secrets are stored in the eyes or something like that. It's a whole thing where it's like there's too much significance based
Uatu
in
is
the
basically
eyes.
a god.
Yeah. Like all the Watchers are just gods. They are immortal beings that can travel wherever they want in the Marvel universe and know all, but they can never help people.
And
Never
he
help
basically, they're bound to a non-interference clause,
I
basically.
mean,
they
he
never
did
follow.
tell
So in their-
Adam Warlock everything.
Well, only in the Earth X
Yeah.
series. Uatu's actually like the worst example of his race too, because like he's always helped Earth. That being said,
He's
going
also
back to Thor here, so he basically Nick Fury whispered that Gore the Godbird Butcher was right about gods, basically being crap people, not good for anything.
Yep.
And so he immediately became unworthy. He could no longer lift Mjolnir and lost a chunk of his powers.
As one does.
The hammer was later picked up by Jane Foster, who had, like, I think stage 4 cancer. And whenever she's in Thor mode, she has all the powers of Thor, and her cancer is cured. But it also purges her mortal body of any medications that she was on. So she has to redo chemo every time she tries to stay in Thor mode as much as possible.
Wait,
Me.
why can she not just stay in Thor mode? I don't know.
I don't know the story entirely
Yeah,
because
me
like I
neither.
haven't really wanted to get into this story because
Yeah.
suddenly the character that I got to know and love, because Thor was my favorite Marvel character for a long time. I mean, you can remember how excited I was when J. Michael Straczynski. Like, I don't think you remember that
I remember
exactly.
when we went to go and see that one Iron Man movie and you saw the hammer and you were like,
Yeah, Iron Man 2.
yeah, and you were fangirling and it was great.
Yeah. Well, I went to see it with Tony first, and I actually stood up and I was like, oh my god! Because this was back when the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the introducing like characters
Yeah.
through other movies was still relatively new.
And you still freaked out the second time you saw it with everyone.
Yeah, because it was such a cool experience, and I love Thor. And then, but this character that I loved is no longer Thor. That being said, I have gone back and read some of the Jane Foster series. Like, I haven't really gotten, and it's not bad. It still feels like Thor. Granted, there feels to be like a lot of like take that's to fans that don't like Jane Foster being Thor. There's a lot of that.
Marvel's petty like that.
Yeah, and I'm just like, please just stop. Because, like, Jane Foster, if you want to make a female Thor, Like I'm really I feel like I'm sounding petty here. Like I'm not against a female Thor.
Mm-hmm.
It's just they basically took a character, neglected that character to create a new character that could have been better. Because Jane Foster could have been a better character had they not, and you wouldn't have pissed off anybody had you not completely sidelined Thor. Granted, I understood that was part of the point of the story.
What's Thor doing now? He's like part of
I
some
don't
team.
remember. I think he's like some kind of Thor Force or some crap.
The last
I
story
feel
I
like
read.
You
and-
should introduce that character alongside the original for the original to be a mentor.
So,
Yeah, if you're going to
And
do that.
introduce
Or
you to this character.
had they just
more.
killed Thor? Had Thor just died and as his like dying breath or thing, something like that, let Mjolnir go to Jane
Yeah,
Foster?
but, who in mythology does Thor get killed by?
The Midgard serpent.
Yes,
Jormungand.
No,
Jormungandr. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jormungand. But yeah. So, like, had they just killed Thor, I think there would have been no backlash. Because then there'd be a legitimate reason for why Thor is no longer Thor, and this new character that could have been anyone else is now Thor. Like, they already tried making someone that wasn't Thor in the 90s with Eric Masterson as Thunderstrike.
Yeah.
And it failed. So why do this? Because almost every, like I said, aside from like the petty take-thats towards some of their fans that did not like Jane Foster, granted, most of the people who were like, I hate Jane Foster, I don't think they were doing it from a place of loving the character. I think they were doing it from the place of just not wanting representation.
I just think that a lot of people like really loved Thor and didn't want Thor to die, and so they've just expressed that hatred towards Jane Foster for the fact that their favorite character got sidelined.
And that is a legitimate point. It's just like most of the commentary I've heard is people that like, why do I want a woman in comic books? That's most of the narrative I've heard.
I think they're just expressing the hatred because they want Thor back.
I mean,
But
that
there
could be a legitimate thing, but
or-
it could just be them being immature.
That also is fair.
But the thing is, most of the stories with Jane Foster, you could have had the same story with just Thor.
Mhm.
Like, they haven't actually done anything interesting with Jane Foster that they couldn't have done with Thor.
That's true.
So it's like, I don't get the point of sidelining Thor at that point.
You know what they did? They said, "What if Thor was a girl?" And
That's
then they
almost how they wrote it.
and then they showed you it's exactly the same.
And that's cool. I don't mind that. It's just, you show me that Thor is still alive. He's still, and honestly, the actual Odinson stories were more interesting. So, but yeah, so they actually made it where Thor as a character is now somewhat inaccessible to me. Mainly because this is a character I got to know, and I want it to change. Don't get me wrong. Change has to happen in order for a narrative to flow. If you don't have any change, your narrative's not real, your narrative doesn't exist, you're just pointless. But at the same time, there's a certain point where if you change something too much, too quickly, you lose your current base. And that's almost, that sums up entirely what Marvel's been doing over the last 5 years.
Well, I mean, you remember when a lot of
Um,
people were like going off about Riri being introduced.
So yeah, going to Ironheart, since I'm done talking about Thor. So Riri Williams was introduced after they basically killed Tony Stark. Only they've done this same story with Tony Stark before, where he's not really dead. He's now an AI.
Yep.
Or they've done this story before.
He makes an AI of himself that is a complete copy in every single way and just as grumpy.
Yeah. So, and
Just
to
not alcoholic.
replace
It's an
him,
AI.
taking over the Invincible Iron Man comic book was Riri Williams. She's an African-American MIT student, if I'm not mistaken.
Isn't she also like a teenager?
She's like
She's like
20.
20, yeah.
Okay.
But she's a super genius like Tony Stark, and
Yep.
she designs her own Iron Man armor. And Tony Stark had already taken like notice of her before he was Iron Man, or before she became that. She doesn't actually explicitly call herself Iron Man, which I'm happy about, because she's not. Tony Stark is Iron Man. There was a period in the 80s where James Rhodes was Iron Man, and no one ever liked that. And then they made a War Machine. They made a War Machine, and he was
And he was
loved.
way better.
Yeah. It's just like when they made him Iron Man, no one actually cared for it.
What in the world was Iron Patriot again?
Iron Patriot was the name of the suit that Norman Osborn wore when he was the head of Hammer.
Ah.
And later, like, the suit was almost designed for Harry Osborn to be the American son or some crap like that. It's a long story.
Okay.
Iron Patriot was repurposed in Iron Man 3. Just
Okay.
don't
That's
don't,
why I was
yeah.
asking.
The concept was repurposed. But yeah. So they introduce her as Ironheart, but she takes over the Invincible Iron Man book. Simultaneously, they also had another favorite character of mine take
Dr.
over as the
Doom.
real Iron Man. So Dr. Doom decided, or he's finally reformed because he finally could admit that he's not better than Reed Richards. Towards the end of the Secret Wars storyline, he finally realized, I'm not better than you, or you're better than me, to Reed Richards. And by accepting that, like, Reed Richards is a parting, like, he gave his powers to, because at the end of the Secret Wars storyline, he was in the power of the, or in possession of the complete power of the Beyonders, which were these, like, multiversal gods in Marvel. So he was in complete possession of the Beyonders' powers. He gives the powers to Reed. Reed uses them to reconstruct the multiverse. Basically. I'm cliff noting it. Summarizing. But as a last thing, like, Reed's like, look, man, I never really thought of you. Were just mostly like a friend that was just a backstabber friend, but a friend.
You were just a very competitive friend.
Yeah. So he heals his face. And so they actually made Dr. Doom want to reform. And as part of his being reformed, he steals one of Tony Stark's suits. Tony Stark's hologram AI was not happy about it, but they learned to live with it. He became a really good guy. And honestly, that was a good use of character graduation. And that's not the term I'm going to use for that. That was a good use of it. But then there's an example here, like Ironheart was actually looked down upon at first. I think by the same like Gamergate population at first, because it's like you're replacing Tony Stark with this black chick. That's what I heard more often than not. And I hated that.
There were,
I wasn't
but there
in that
were
one,
a
so I
lot of
didn't
people
know.
that were just like, "Oh yes, representation. We're getting
That's
a
how I
black
was.
female, and this is great."
My only problem with it was like instead of making this brand new character as her own character, they made her basically an extension of Tony Stark.
That's what I was about to say.
That was my
Like,
complaint.
One
So
thing that I
why-
saw is that there were people upset that she didn't call herself Iron Man or after him at all. Just
Yeah,
chose Ironheart, and I was just like,
I think that was actually a smart
No,
move
that's
because
that's a
fine.
good
it was
thing for her.
it
She's
was a
making
way to make her own character.
role.
Like it's
Yeah.
like I was actually about to say like I would rather see a new superhero that gets as much limelight as Iron Man
Yeah.
would, but is her own superhero rather than
And
hey
Riri
look
Williams
these
is
white
doing
guys are
that.
dead.
Now, to the writers of like
Riri Williams is doing that. She's making
Yeah,
her
well,
own.
yeah, but
to
I'm
the
saying,
to the
but-
credit of the writers, they actually did a really good job with Riri Williams.
Yeah.
So she is actually making strides in being her own character, and I love reading those stories.
Well, to put it this way, I would rather see a new superhero who is a black female instead of a black female taking the place of a dead white dude.
I agree with that.
I will say though they have done a better job with Riri Williams than they did with Amadeus Cho.
Yeah, Amadeus Cho became Hulk for some reason, and it was a nonsensical way of doing it.
I have no
Oh,
clue
I
who that
absorbed
is.
the. So Amadeus Cho is this. I think he was 18 at the time. 18-year-old super genius. He's like the 7th smartest kid in the world, or
Sure.
person in the world.
Let's go with it.
He was a mainstay in the Hulk stories.
Mhm.
So he was basically like obsessed with the Hulk. He wanted to help the Hulk every chance he got.
Sure.
Later, he ended up teaming up with Hercules. But when
Because
the Hulk
why
was
not?
disappeared.
Hercules.
Yeah, in the Incredible Hercules storyline. That being said, closer to the end of, I want to say it was just before Civil War II, they had Amadeus Cho basically siphon the gamma radiation out of Bruce Banner because like something was going wrong. I can't remember exactly what
I'm
was
guessing
going
this
on.
is an Asian man, by the way.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Uh,
We were talking about like, we were talking about representation and everything, and I heard the show. I was like, I mean, I assumed, but just to.
But like, the character just like they took this character that was a very, because I loved Amadeus Cho.
Yeah.
They took this really interesting character that had so many possibilities, and now he's just a crappier version of the Hulk.
I mean, so like they already like addressed the fact that like anybody can become the Hulk with Hulk World, whereas like everyone became the Hulk, and like they already have like.
Gamma mutates are a thing.
Yeah, it's like he can. This is totally fine, and I think so. It's been like hinted at before that the radiation that affected. Why am I blanking on his name?
Bruce Banner.
Bruce Banner. The radiation that affected Bruce Banner was somehow special and created the Hulk, which is a separate personality, where all the other gamma
They've
mutates.
never implied that.
Well, I mean, like the Hulk is a split personality for Bruce, where all the other ones really don't have
So,
that kind of split
so
personality.
they've implied that gamma radiation mutates different people differently, which is another reason why I don't understand Amadeus Cho being just a crappier Hulk. When he just by absorbing the radiation out of Banner, like he's literally just the Hulk, only not as entertaining. But yeah, so they took this interesting character and they made him just a clone of Banner, and it was just for the I don't know why. Like, it doesn't make sense, and this character just isn't interesting
So
anymore.
here's what you do. You make a new Avengers with Riri Williams, Thor Girl, or not Thor Girl,
Jane Foster.
Jane Foster. I've been so into like calling her
Yeah.
Thor Girl because I never like read the story. I
You
only saw the
legitimately
character.
thought that's what she was called.
Yes, I saw the character and I was like, oh, that looks like Thor Girl. That
Yeah.
must be Thor Girl.
Because there is a character called Thor Girl.
Yeah, that's like where my mind went.
Yeah.
So Jane Foster,
Which
Riri
makes it even
Williams,
more confusing.
Cho, and maybe like 2 other characters.
Well, there's also
and
a
give them
backlash about Sam Wilson becoming the new Captain America.
Sam Wilson.
Yeah.
But that's been a thing since like the
Yeah.
80s. Get over it. That's
Yeah.
Well,
That's been a
I
thing.
mean,
They've been implying that could have happened a long time ago.
but
I myself am kind of in a toss-up. Do I want Sam as Cap or do I want Bucky as
Bucky
Cap?
already was Cap,
Back-
and Bucky
yeah.
is actually like currently secretly dead. Not really.
so.
He took over after Nick Fury after the original Sin storyline, so he's now on the moon.
Oh.
But like,
Yeah.
let's say like kill off the old Avengers, or like do like rewrites of the old Avengers. Keep that story going for the people who want it. But the people who want representation in something new, make this new Avengers, all new characters, but all new roles on the team, but not based off of old dead white guys.
But see,
that's
like-
my problem.
But see, like they do one of two things. They either like create these characters from scratch as poor imitations of the originals, aside from the fact that they're new representations. So like, yeah, cool. I love that there's representation there, but this is you could have done this story better with the original copy.
I'm gonna go ahead
Or
and say
they take an existing character like Falcon, who was already interesting in his own right, or Amadeus Cho, who's already interesting the way he was, and make him crappier.
I am gonna go ahead and say that they should probably do the way that manga writers do, like Clamp. They're this big
Yeah.
writing circle. They had Sailor Moon. They made it. They ended it. They moved on to a completely different story with completely different characters.
Yeah, that's basically what I'm saying. Like,
Like,
don't,
they should have
yeah.
done that and like not involve anything from the other storylines.
Well, there's always this constant back and hang on.
So each Marvel and DC have their own multiverse system, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Why not just make another universe, give it a new number,
Exactly.
and do exactly that?
Exactly.
Well, that's what
but-
they did with Ultimate Marvel for a while.
And
Like
at
they
the
had,
same
they actually
time,
had Peter Parker die in Ultimate Marvel.
At the same time, they're
Because
still
you can have
focusing
all
on
of these storylines
same.
going on at the same
Yeah,
time, and if a writer doesn't like this certain character, they just
Go to another universe.
So the
they
problem
go to
is,
another
They're
universe
still
and,
focusing on
and
the same
concentrate on that
story.
character
but then you
being
get
dead.
audience attachment. So you cannot avoid audiences getting attached to a character. That's one reason why Tony Stark can't stay dead. That's one reason why Bruce Banner will always come back as the Hulk. It's why we'll always have Captain America. We'll always have original Thor somewhere. Eventually, he's going to get the hammer back, and Jane Foster's probably going to be cured.
Yeah.
Like Doctor Strange literally just became the Sorcerer Supreme again. Like it's going to happen again because that's part of writing a long-running series. Is you have to return it to the status quo before you can hand it over to a writer.
One thing that annoys
To a
me
new
though
writer.
Yeah.
is that even manga takes from comic books sometimes with
Yeah.
like One Piece and Naruto and Bleach going on forever, but even they eventually ended.
Yeah.
Speaking of those, I'm a person that's been always gung ho about Naruto, and while
Naruto's dead.
yeah, while original Naruto, it technically ended halfway through its full series.
Yeah.
Naruto Shippuden actually ended a really good way,
Yeah.
even though the last 300 episodes take place over 48 hours.
Yeah, that's the one thing that keeps me from watching. Why can't I just watch the important battles of it and ignore the rest of it?
All the side battles
that's
that
what I
don't
did.
actually matter.
That's what I did.
Well, I
just
mean,
watched-
even
I watched
Bleach has,
Madara
like, way
versus
too much,
Naruto and
filler.
Sasuke. I
Yeah.
watched Naruto, or I watched. That's basically what I watched. I just watched the final one and I didn't care about the rest.
But like I was talking about earlier about how like Doctor Doom became the new Iron Man. They literally just ended that series by having him get re-scarred
Boy did a 360.
and decide to be bad guy again.
He did a 360.
And I'm just like, I no longer want to read this story. You just undone all of the character development over the course of this series for the sake of returning to the status quo. Things can never change, and that's starting to frustrate me as a comic book reader. Another example of things that have changed in Marvel, which I can give this one a sure, but at the same time it still irks me. It makes me not want to read the comic books. There was a reveal about why superhuman abilities evolved in Marvel in the first place. Apparently there was a Celestial that died on Earth, and like its blood seeped into like the primordial sludge, basically.
Why did it take so long to manifest, though?
Well, it didn't. It just took so long to manifest, like, to the extent it is now. So you have examples of, like, Apocalypse.
Yeah.
Or,
sure.
What's her name? So, is it Selene? The Black Queen from Hellfire Club?
Oh, yeah.
She was from, like, the Primordial Age with Conan the Barbarian.
Yeah.
I can't think what it was called. But yeah, so these are characters that existed before, and magic's always been there, and magic's just a natural manifestation of these powers, essentially. Like, you have a natural innate ability to channel magic because of this.
Yeah.
So, like, this is their new reasoning. So originally, I grew up when the commonly accepted, like, ideology was the Celestials actually came down to Earth and modified humans for some unforeseen purpose, or unknown purpose. And that was why we're so ready to mutate. So right off the bat, they changed the origin. They also implied that there's now, and I'm tainted on this because one of my favorite comic book series Marvel ever did was the Earth X, Universe X, Paradise X series, where they revealed the reason why the Celestials did that was because they reproduced by impregnating planets. Planets are basically just empty shells until a Celestial puts a baby in it. And the baby grows, and then humans, the superhumans or super empowered individuals, serve as antibodies to protect the baby at all costs.
That's fair. Because then, like, I was about to raise the point, like, what if Galactus eats a Celestial baby?
Well,
Yeah,
that's his
why.
job.
Yeah.
Celestial is
that's why
the
he eats
reason
those
why.
planets.
I was bringing up that point before you said that. I was
in
like,
the
oh,
Earth
that
X,
makes
Universe
more
X
sense.
series, like,
That's actually cool.
Galactus is the natural check on Celestials overpopulating. Because apparently what happened in the original, in Earth X's storyline, is that in the original universe, the Celestials overpopulated. And so much of their energy made the universe explode into the multiverse, essentially. And so Galactus was created by the cosmic powers, essentially, to keep the Celestials from overpopulating. So yeah,
Makes me wonder why he's such a pushover.
I mean, he's really not. We just see him at his weakest points, usually. I mean, it's hard to see, like, you can't fight Galactus.
They say you can't, and then the Hulk just punches him in the face at one point.
I mean,
It's
I
just
don't know,
like,
man.
okay, fine. You're
But
supposed
yeah.
to be like the power of whatever. Anyways,
Power
go on.
cosmic.
Yeah.
But yeah, so in the current Marvel, they just established that, like, Celestials are infested with, like, this cosmic insect race called the Horde. And that apparently if a Celestial is, like, killed on a planet or whatever, they're infected the planet with the Horde. And eventually they're going to hatch or some crap like that. And I'm just like, look, you had a perfectly good origin. I didn't need to know more. At the same time, now you're changing the origin explicitly to give us something in the future. Like, you're changing the past in such a way that makes what I already knew pointless. And it just makes me not want to read the story.
Well, so segueing off that, comic books weren't the only
Yeah, we
point
had
we wanted
another-
to talk about, and
We have an hour.
yeah. I
Yeah.
was about to say, but we're 40 minutes in and we've only talked about comic books, and there are other stories that also need to end like this one.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, anime is really good about endings. They're really good about ending stuff at a good point.
Well, hang
too.
on. Let me. I actually never actually finished the point about comic books. Like, they needed to actually. These stories need to end in order for the new stuff to come out.
See, this
Otherwise,
is the
it's
problem
pointless.
with comic books is that it gets to a nice ending, we could end it,
Yeah.
and then they come back.
Yeah.
Just illustrated
Okay.
here.
Okay. Sorry. It's my bad.
But like, even the mangas are really good at ending. Like, they end fairly quickly. They get their story out there and done.
Well, it's like the best animes and best manga. I will not watch an anime if I don't see it. If I see it's over 50 episodes anymore.
a lot of the really good anime are only 12 episodes. Like Yuri on Ice, 12 episodes. Tokyo Ghoul season 1, 12, and season 2 is also 12. Death Note was 37.
I was about to say. I was just about to bring up Death Note and how it should have ended earlier because
a lot of people wanted it to end at L's death.
Yes, that's
but
what I was
I
going to say.
I do
agree.
like Mello and Nier.
I hated
Okay, well
But at the
You're
same
in the
time,
minority, but that's okay.
the drama series is only 11 episodes, and it has Nier in it a little earlier, also with Mikuni getting more story behind him. And the way it does it is it builds up the characters so well, and it doesn't keep the thing going on for too long.
Okay, well, none of us know about like the drama series
Yeah,
and like
I
all
know.
that. So just addressing just the first
Yeah.
season of Death Note, you.
Well, I mean, the whole thing was one season.
Yeah, it was all one season.
Oh, it was all
Yeah.
one season.
It,
Okay,
like,
well, that's
is it 20? Episode 26 is when L died, right?
Somewhere.
And then it went
around
on
there.
another like 10 episodes.
Yeah, it
Mello
was
and
only
Nier.
37 episodes.
Something like that.
I've always thought. I don't know how I got that so mixed up. I thought
And they
that
didn't-
season 1 was just L, and then when he died, they started season 2.
And they didn't want Light to win.
Oh,
Which, I mean, I understand
fine.
not wanting the maniacal serial killer to win.
At the same time, like, there's already so many stories where the bad guy doesn't win. It's like, sometimes, just give the bad guy a win.
Well, I mean,
Come
the
on.
good guys
fine.
didn't win completely because Mello died.
Yeah.
So did L.
And, I mean, Mikuni, he also went insane. You don't want the insane guy to win and become God like he wants. And I understand why they had to go on to end it, but I understand why they couldn't just let L win.
Well, there's other stories too, like Inuyasha, for instance. So Inuyasha
That went
like
on
that
way
was
too long.
that was my first real exposure to anime was
Mhm.
Inuyasha. I loved it.
Yeah,
but
it started
then,
out
like,
pretty good.
After a while, I'm just like, okay,
Can we stop?
can we slow down and actually end something here? Can we
Like-
actually just? Because what would happen is
They had like
they'd,
50
like,
storylines
we have-
going at
yeah.
once.
like 50 going on at once, and then the main storyline, it kept doing this like sine wave thing, where it's like 0 is where you want it to be. That's where you could end it.
Yeah.
And like, we find out that Naraku?
Yeah.
Naraku, the big bad, is suddenly potentially weak to this.
Oh, but also
Let's go get the thing.
Also,
We got it.
let's
He's
not
weak to it anymore.
let's not forget about Kagome's human life. We have to know more about that. And let's not forget anything about
Yeah,
Shishomaru, who is just not even talking to Inuyasha at this point.
I think anime's weakness is adding too much backstory and plot because, like, I always feel
Like,
bogged
I
down
love
when
it
we
when
like, go
they
backwards.
just imply the backstory
Sure,
and
yes.
let us know what's going on, but don't
Let
give
us know when it's
everything.
necessary.
For the crazy
Yeah.
fans, you can release like a 10-volume mini-series about the person's life before X happened.
Or you could release a guidebook.
Exactly.
Because a lot of, like, even Death Note released a guidebook.
Yeah, like...
So with anime, like Naruto, for example, or Dragon Ball Z, they were actually good with Dragon Ball Z when they did Kai.
Sure.
So that was like
Except for the fact that they keep on releasing more series.
Well, Kai was essentially just a remaster.
yeah, it was a
Yeah.
It was a
remaster with
remastering.
all the crap taken out of it.
yeah.
There
It
were
was-
only like 5 episodes taken out. I recently
Oh.
I recently rewatched original Dragon Ball Z. There's all of 5 episodes that
So I
are not
remember.
there.
So I remember sitting down to watch Kai and thinking, "Whoa, this is going really fast. I don't feel like I'm watching Dragon Ball Z at all."
I also, like, they might have, like, edited it down to, like, take out some of the screaming, where it's just, like, 20 minutes of screaming.
That's where those 5 episodes went.
But yeah, so like with like I want them to have like the episode name and have a star at the end. Is this relevant to the main plot?
Well, I mean,
I
even
always look up the
Bleach should
guide.
do something like
Yeah.
that.
I always look up that guide on the internet
I
where it's
looked
like...
up a guide just to skip all the filler when I was introducing Sean to Bleach.
Yep.
Well, it's
I
like
tried to
Bleach
watch
is another
Bleach.
one. That like so I loved Bleach when it first came out.
I really tried to watch it, like, after I finished Naruto.
So I never really got into Naruto.
So I really wanted to...
The
Dylan
look
is
on
giving me
your
a bad
face.
look. Okay, I really wanted to finish Naruto, and when I did, I wanted to give Bleach a shot because I had just finished my super long anime. I tried. I got like 30 episodes in, and I just could not take
Well,
it.
like,
I was just, oh
I
my
was
God.
introducing
That's
Sean.
how I am with Super.
I was introducing Sean to Bleach, and I was like, you know what? We're not even starting at the beginning. We're starting at the beginning of the Arrancar arc.
I have no...
We're starting here, and then we're gonna skip all the filler, and you'll still get all of the story because they go over everything 1,000 times.
Yeah, I have no clue what that
Could've
story
just
is
said
about
1,000.
anymore. Like,
No, it's
So,
a
like,
lot.
so
and
like
I
what
wanted to illustrate that.
Or 10,000.
I will like just to like put into terms why I couldn't watch Bleach. I don't remember what it's about. I remember there being a girl that nobody could there was a girl who
Rukia?
like this is the beginning of Bleach. I started at episode 1.
So Rukia.
Probably. It's been a while, man. Anyways, so there was Rukia hunting down demons, and then this guy started to help her for no reason.
Ichigo.
This Ichigo started helping this edgy, orange-haired fucker.
He gets edgier.
Yeah.
I believe it. I believe it. And so, anyways, starts helping her for no reason.
Voiced by Johnny Young Bosch, by the way. So of
Whoever
course
that
he
is.
The
gets
the
so
second Black
edgy.
Ranger.
Oh,
And also Nero.
Yeah.
Nero.
The one that took
and-
over. Like, he won't know that.
I would think he'd played
Devil
Devil
May
May Cry.
yes.
Yeah, Nero.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was actually the second Black Ranger. He took over after Zack.
Cool. All right. Fun.
Literally, if you hear his voice once, you
You'll
will hear
hear
every
everything.
character.
That's
Yeah.
funny. I love actors like that where it's just like, oh, is that? It is.
No,
Yeah.
no, you're not even questioning.
So,
You're like,
like-
that's him.
I loved Bleach when I first started watching it. I thought it was actually kind of compelling. And then they finished the Soul Society, the Rescue Rukia from the Soul Society arc. And I was like, that's cool. But then it proceeded to go on another 10 years.
Didn't they go into the Bount arc?
Don't
too?
even, no.
That was
no,
all filler.
Yeah, that was a filler arc. But yeah, like, I tried to sit down after the Soul Society arc was over, and I just could not care about any of these characters. I couldn't care about it anymore, because, like, they kept trying to get, like, elaborate on the new characters they introduced in the Soul Society arc. Like, the little kid with the ice dragon sword.
I'm
And I was just
nodding
like,
my
I
head.
don't care.
Toshiro.
Toshiro.
Dylan has
It's
switched
like,
away
I
from.
don't care.
Dylan has switched away from Digimon
No,
into
he's still
Clash
playing.
of Clans.
Oh no,
Yeah.
I thought it was Digimon.
No, just
And then
It
there's
looks the
Dylan
same.
update.
I was just like, I'm okay. I'm done with Bleach now. I'm
Like,
done.
I absolutely loved the Arankar arc.
See, I couldn't get
But
into
that's
it.
about it.
I was already done. Like, I signed out because it was a perfectly good ending with the
Well,
end of
like-
the Soul Society arc.
I always have a thing where like I will overanalyze the villain and be like, I like them. So
They
that
could
gave
easily
me-
have done a sequel series that
also-
was somewhat unrelated,
they also
like
had
Boruto.
they also had the Viziards, which were interesting to me.
Did I tell you
That could have been a separate story though. It didn't have to be part of the Bleach proper.
Well, like they're trying. I think they're about to start trying to do a spin-off like Boruto, and please don't.
Did I tell you guys an 8-year-old spoiled Boruto for me? It spoiled the ending of Boruto.
They do that at the very first episode.
Does he die?
Okay, so
I'm not gonna watch it. I don't
so,
care.
So the very first 5 minutes of the first episode of Boruto.
Yeah.
Foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Done horribly.
Yeah.
Does Naruto die?
It's Boruto's dad now.
They imply that everyone is dead except for Boruto and the one main villain, who we still have no idea the identity of.
You can't kill Naruto in the sequel to his own anime.
Not until you see him like
So-
go Sage Mode one more time, and then that's the last time you ever
So
see it.
the exact quote used is, "I'm going to send you the same place I sent him," and you know, like immediately that he's referring to Naruto, to Boruto's dad, because the villain is talking to Boruto.
Yeah.
And you see Boruto's new weird little eye ability that hasn't been referenced since like episode 20, and we're at 60 now.
Oh.
Is it really going on that long?
Yeah.
I need to catch up. I watched 2 episodes and then stopped.
See, here's the thing. It just goes on.
But there's also like incredibly long anime with no payoff. Like One Piece, I feel like the reveal at the end was not good payoff.
Yeah, I thought One Piece was stupid. The whole time I'm just like, these characters don't matter. This story doesn't matter. It's going on too long. I don't care about any of them.
It was interesting when I was 9 and it was just starting out.
Yeah.
Can I just
But
say?
then it went on for 10,000 episodes.
Can I just say how crazy it is that all 3 of you have like watched like animes that have been over 500 episodes and can talk about them like in a row and still remember things? It's like
Fairy Tale.
Fairy Tale too.
Ugh.
So I watched a lot of Fairy Tale. I still
See, the
haven't
thing
finished
is-
it. I couldn't start on any of those.
So like, I feel like as a partaker of narratives, as someone who consumes narratives, I have outgrown anime to an extent. Like my need for shures, or my threshold for shures, has been raised too high
I love it
to really get into anime anymore.
because, for one, comic books don't have satisfying endings or no endings
And
at all.
like
And then shows most of the time don't have an ending that I'm satisfied with. Whereas anime, they have an ending, and sometimes it's not
Sometimes.
satisfying, but it's bittersweet most of the time.
well, it's like one of our favorite mutual animes, S Cried. So like
okay,
the ending. to
okay,
that-
let's not talk about that ending because I hated that I didn't get a
so
resolution.
the ending wasn't a resolution, but the ending was solid.
Yeah.
And it ended in 26 episodes, and it actually felt like I actually enjoyed the anime a lot more because I was like,
Neither
I
of
like
us
that.
neither of us won the bet.
you wanted Ryuho to win, and
Yeah,
I
I did.
wanted.
I have
Kazuma.
never heard of S Cried.
We have the DVD box
Yeah.
set.
I'll take it home sometime.
Okay.
Okay,
I'll
so
bring it.
an
Okay.
an anime that was really good, but
I
the
love
but the
Ryuho. He's my
ending just
favorite.
brought up too many questions and made it a bad ending. Hunter x Hunter.
So I never watched
Again,
it.
another one of
Hunter
those like
x Hunter
500
always
episode
gives
animes
me a
I
heart
cannot get
attack
into.
though
It's
whenever
only
I
like
think
120
about
or
it.
so
I never
episodes.
watched it.
Okay.
Because Hunter x Hunter is one of those animes that I'm always iffy on because like, did I like it? A little bit, but
I-
not completely.
I've never even given it a shot. It
I
just wasn't-
enjoyed it, but like
I never really got the ending. So
they went to the point of, oh, all of these characters are very much like super powerful, but we're only a quarter of the way into the content we want to do. How do we make them more powerful?
you know
Weird
the,
spirit magic.
You know the mangaka's
I mean,
still going.
would Dragon Ball do?
Yeah.
And the quintessential anime that should have ended a long time
Yu Yu
ago.
Hakusho.
And
that
Oh
went
god,
on
Yu Yu
ages.
Hakusho. And it started off so cool.
Yeah, it was so good at first.
We
But
haven't even gotten
then
into like the popular TV yet. Because we had like a Supernatural and Doctor Who bit ready, but I don't think we're gonna make it.
And we like it doesn't matter. I mean,
Yeah.
But yeah, so like Doctor Who's another series or an actual movie TV series that does this whole like this could have ended and it would have been a beautiful artistic ending.
Sure.
Like my favorite ending points. So like if you disregard the eyebrow moment from what was it, Day of the Doctor, that was the name of the special.
Yeah.
If you disregard the eyebrow moment where they reveal Peter Capaldi's eyebrows in the TARDIS, whatever. It's a long story, Dylan.
John Hurt is the best Doctor.
John Hurt was great. If you disregard that, you could have ended at the end of Matt Smith's run,
I do.
and it would have been beautiful. It
I
would have been a
do want
great
to say
ending.
though, there are things that released sequels, like what you guys were saying. You could just release a sequel and make it that just shouldn't release them. Like Yu-Gi-Oh, they release sequel after sequel after sequel
Yeah.
after sequel.
God.
But
But
they
it's
at
kind
least
of
end
dead.
there.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
actually end their animes.
They end them, but then they're gonna release another sequel that's
Sure.
kind of connected.
Going back to Doctor Who, though, like if
Which
you
is
don't,
a fan theory that they're all exactly sequenced
Yeah.
in some way.
yeah,
There's tons of YouTube videos. If you want to go on a YouTube crawl, you can see secretly how all the Yu-Gi-Ohs are past.
same thing.
Yeah.
Even the
Yeah.
games are connected.
Mm.
but yeah. So like even but going back to Doctor Who, trying to stay on Doctor Who, but
Sorry.
someone keeps going back to Yu-Gi-Oh.
Okay, this was the first time I referenced Yu-Gi-Oh this
Okay.
video.
Also, I mean, I'm at fault
Yeah.
too, and like
Yeah.
I apologize for like railroading into like the TV shows, but
But yeah, so like Doctor Who.
I just wanted to bring up that sequel series could go
So
wrong.
yes.
who's your favorite Doctor, Connor?
It's between Matt and David, TBH.
So my favorite, usually everyone's first Doctor's their favorite.
Like,
my
Matt
first
Smith
Doctor
my
was Tom
first
Baker.
Doctor.
I grew up with Tom Baker. Mom's favorite was Tom Baker for the longest, and
He's-
showed me it.
And he's not 50 years old.
No, but like my favorite is David Tennant. I love David
I love
Tennant.
David Tennant. I love David Tennant in anything he's in. It's a problem how much I like David
Yeah.
Tennant.
The thing is, like the ending of David Tennant's run was a solid ending for the entire series.
I
It
don't
could
wanna
have
go.
been. I cried.
Damn it. You took it.
Like I cried at the end of David Tennant's run. But because of the nature of the show, they continued it, and it became a different show entirely. And that's part of the the benefits of Doctor Who. That's
Yes.
how Doctor Who's structured. It's meant to do that. But
I mean,
now it's
they
to the
did
point
go
where like
on hiatus for years.
yeah. But then like Peter Capaldi as a character, as a doctor, like I just could not get into him.
Went so they go through phases of like, we want to appeal to the younger generation. All right, now we're back older. Now we're younger.
I didn't
Yeah.
like Capaldi very much at all.
I'm interested in seeing where this new doctor, I can't think of her name.
Something with a J.
Because I haven't actually followed it much more
Yeah.
than the initial, like, oh, the doctor's a female now.
Yeah, that's all
And then I saw
saw.
the Gamergate backlash to that. And I
Yeah.
was
Yeah,
like,
whatever.
ugh.
Go away.
But, yeah.
I'm excited.
I'm excited. I want to see where it's going to go because I did not like Capaldi.
I'm just hoping
So,
that
like-
she's not bland.
I haven't watched it. I heard Capaldi gets better, but that's what anybody
That's
ever
what-
says
yeah, that's
about
what
a
you
bad.
always say,
You
yeah.
always just say, "Oh no, you get past
Give
his
it a
first
chance."
season."
Yeah.
But anyways,
He's
Capaldi
like
didn't
me
have the
trying
best
to tell
writers.
you guys
Plus,
that
it's-
Mellow and Near are okay.
yeah,
okay?
that's true. You can tell us how much we want. We have our.
Well, I thought
opinions.
Nier was just kind of like stupid. I thought they were both basically overpowered for the story.
They were working together. They were two different people, so
I know
doesn't
that,
make them
but like,
overpowered.
well, you know what I'm trying to say though. Like, they kind of felt like they were just BS'd into the story. at the
They're
end
the
of it.
Wonder Pets. It's fine.
Anyway, back to like Doctor Who for a second, or because I'm after Doctor Who, we're gonna talk about Supernatural for a
Yep.
second. So, like, Doctor Who could have ended at these theoretical points, and it just didn't.
Matt Smith's was a beautiful bow tie.
Like, I could have been okay. Like, to me personally, like, I do kind of, and I'm gonna skip over Capaldi. Like, if I go to rewatch it again, I'm not gonna watch Capaldi.
I am gonna say
I
that
don't care
Clara
about him.
overstayed her welcome.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Well, so
Like,
did
I
technically a lot of people think Rose did too.
That's
like
also
I
true.
didn't like Clara at all.
You know who my favorite was?
I thought she made
Donna.
Matt Smith better.
I love Donna. I
Donna
love
was
Donna
great.
and
Donna was the best. Yeah, Donna and David.
See, so like people disagree with me. They say they hated Donna. I was like,
I love
Donna and
Donna.
David were amazing.
They had
together.
so much chemistry.
It was great.
But okay, so going off to another show that could have ended, Supernatural.
It was supposed to end at season 5.
And
So
then
this
season
show,
10.
yeah, this show is almost on its 14th season. It was supposed to end in season 5. It had it. So the actual original writer, Eric Kripke, actually had a 5-season plan. End it. He actually didn't think he was gonna, or he originally had a 3-season plan, but he realized halfway through the second season, hey, we can do this as a 5-season, and like he extended it. And he was planning. He didn't expect to even get to the 3rd season, and it turned out to be a blowout hit. And
Well, I mean,
so they
with
did the
leads
natural.
like,
Jared Padalecki
Yeah.
and Jensen Ackles.
with leads like them.
They have so much charisma. They have so much going for them.
And then introducing Misha Collins.
yeah, Misha
like,
Collins is Castiel.
And they
It's
all
fantastic.
are like really well together.
Yeah,
even
like
even the like the less major characters, like the
Felicia Day's character.
Felicia Day's character, I love Felicia Day for so many
See,
reasons.
I actually didn't like her character.
I don't even
but
care.
I know a lot
I
of
don't care
people
about
did.
character. I love Felicia Day. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter what she's in. I'll
But,
worship
like,
her.
I love her as a
Everyone-
character.
But also
As a
Crowley.
person,
I
excuse me.
also love
Crowley.
Ruth Connell's character, Rowena.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like,
Everyone's characters like have so much chemistry and they get along so
yeah,
well.
like the actual story. You can argue that there was a huge quality dip, and you'd be correct after season 5. So season 6 and 7 were 2 of the worst seasons of any like long-running TV show I have ever seen in
Which
my life.
I will
I don't know them
admit-
by seasons.
Hashtag Soulless Sam.
But
I
So
got-
season 6 was like we're
Oh,
tracking down the
don't forget
monsters,
Lucifer.
and at the end of it, Castiel became God.
Wait, the monsters, as in
The king monsters, the apex
I-
monsters. I can't think what they were called.
I
Like the-
will.
they were like the
The
Leviathans?
alphas.
Leviathans.
Alphas. And season 7 was Leviathans.
Okay, Leviathans are. I don't remember alphas at all. That's
Yeah.
how like.
It's the Soulless Sam season.
Yeah.
It's not the Alpha season, it's the Soulless Sam
They
season.
start off the season looking for alpha
Yeah,
monsters.
yeah, yeah.
And
I
also
remember
like the
Soulless Sam.
family was
Okay,
there.
Yeah, the Campbell family.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Like,
season 6 was god
I was
awful.
bored
Aside from
watching
the
them,
end.
but I powered through because I was like, it
So,
becomes better, right?
The ending where Castiel's like, I am going to ascend to godhood kind of thing. And you actually see this whole, like, you see his inner conflict. Because they do a brilliant episode where it's entirely from Castiel's perspective. And it starts off with him praying. And he's like, please tell me I'm doing the right thing.
But-
And then he does it.
and
And
like,
you find out he did not do the right thing.
I like when they go to different points of view, except for
Yeah.
when they decided to do the episode Baby.
From the car's perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, like this, like season 6 was awful. Season 7, don't mention Leviathans at any Supernatural group.
I feel like
Or
the
group of people
beginning.
talking about Supernatural.
Well, no, they'll just mention Dick.
Yeah, because the main bad guy's name was Dick Roman, and they were endless puns about penises.
It's great.
Well, his name actually wasn't Dick. And from every...
it was Richard, but
yeah,
he wanted
yeah.
to be called Dick.
No, the Leviathan version wanted to be called Dick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything that we saw, which was almost non-existent about the previous.
See, every time I hear about it,
version
I remember the Fox News running banner that they had on the news shows on Supernatural
Dick
about
rising.
the rise of Dick, and I was just like, please stop! You're only doing this to
Oh,
make
and
stupid
then,
puns.
You are
and then
so
it's like,
totally purposeful.
then there was that whole
They
thing
know their
where,
fans.
are you strictly into Dick now?
Yeah, I'm just.
They know their fans. They're doing it on purpose. It's for me.
But
I
then
like
season
it.
8 happened.
The
And
beginning of
started-
season 8 is just no.
What are you talking about?
I didn't like
It
the
was
beginning of season 8.
fantastic.
I didn't like the
I
beginning.
thought.
What was the main plot of season 8?
So that was the trials to close the gates of hell.
Yeah, I didn't like the beginning. I didn't like most of
They all
season
run
8, to be
together for me.
honest.
Sorry.
So
Yeah.
season 8 started another
Like-
3 or 4 season plan.
I didn't really
So you
like
can
season
you
8
can
to
tell
be
when
it.
they're on a plan and when they're not. Because last season was awful. Season 12 I think was the one that was awful, and season 13 that we just finished was meh.
I liked season
I've
12.
missed most of it.
When you're doing crossovers with Scooby Doo, you just need to stop your show.
Like,
It
I
was
liked,
actually a good episode. I'm
I
not gonna
liked
lie.
season 12
It
I
seemed
didn't
good
watch any
because
of
they've
season
been going on so
13.
long.
because it felt dry.
But yeah, so
The
they
Brit-
could have ended over and over and over again.
The British Men of Letters shouldn't have happened.
No.
Because acknowledging that they're a thing, there are so many previous world-ending scenarios
That they could have been a part of.
that they
and-
should have been a part of.
Yeah. They just finally
Even
take an interest
season
with this
5's
one.
ending.
But yeah, so they stopped the end of the world in season 5. That was a good point to end it, right? And it also had an unsatisfying but still satisfying ending. Where yes, Sam is dead and Dean is living his own life now.
Not dead. In the
He-
cage.
He was dead. But yeah, so that's how they ended season 5. And it was, you stopped the end of the world. You stopped Michael and Lucifer from going toe to toe in the middle of a cemetery and ending the world.
Still
That
sinister
seems like
to
a
be
big
exact.
thing. That seems like a pretty big deal. And then season 11 happens where they actually fight the sister of God.
That was 11? I thought that was 12.
That was 11.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, then 11 was one I liked. I didn't like
12 was
12 or
awful.
I didn't watch 12 or 13 then.
Yeah, season 11 could
Because the
have
beginning
been...
of 12 was boring.
In all fairness, I think season 11 should have been the ending of the series.
I really liked it. And then also, I really liked in season 10 when they managed to kill Death.
Yeah, at the end of season 10, they killed the incarnation of Death.
Death's not dead.
Well, Death is still a thing that happens in this universe, but they killed the most powerful cosmic entity they've encountered.
Even though I really liked him, and he liked me.
And then
Oh, they didn't know Chuck was God yet.
He was my guy.
Also, it's the fact that so they kill the 4 horsemen, right?
They did not kill them.
They only took their
they,
rings.
they,
Oh, okay.
they killed 3 of them technically.
Kind of. They weren't actually killed. They were just rendered powerless temporarily.
But they came.
Well,
The 4
I
horsemen
mean,
came
I
and they
think
didn't.
I
Well,
think pestilence is it.
the way
guy
they
in the
explained it
wheelchair,
is
famine.
the
I don't
incarnation
remember what
dies
it was.
if you cut off the ring.
I don't know.
It's whatever. I was just saying that they did that and then didn't really do anything with the God has come thing.
I feel
Other
like
than,
I feel like the
Chuck showed
wheelchair
up
guy
then.
would have died without his ring though.
Yeah.
TBH.
Well, Death just took his ring off casually and gave it to Dean.
There you go.
You have to promise to bring it back.
Well, he didn't make him promise to give it back. He was just like, sure, here.
Don't worry, I'll kill you if I have to.
Yeah. So, they've stopped the end of the world, legitimately. They've killed the incarnation of Death in the entire universe. And Dean almost had sex with God's sister. Those
More
are
than
3,
once.
more than once. But there's 3 points there. Right there, you could have wrapped up this entire series that now that the series has gone on, have become invalidated.
I mean, they had her as a baby, and they could have just been like, okay, we can either A, take care of this baby, or B, kill this baby.
So I'm making a big deal about now that Connor's brought up that we had her as a baby thing, and after I made the joke about him having sex with God's sister, I felt gross. She was an adult at the time. I just want to point that out.
She was only a baby for an episode and a half
Yeah.
She rapidly grew. But yeah,
by
so
consuming souls.
by eating souls. But
Me.
yeah, so there are multiple points in this show that the show could have ended, and it would have been a satisfying conclusion. But by continuing the show, they've invalidated the previous points.
And they wanted to continue the show
And so-
because of fans.
Because fans. Like right now, the show's on do Jared, Jensen, and Misha want to come back? Cool, new season. And that's cool. I love that fans love the show. I love that the actors are so receptive to their fans, but just artistically, like, the show suffers.
And
Especially now that, like,
they brought
they're
in
at the point where
different
they're
universes and
they've basically invalidated their storyline even more by this past season by introducing the concept of parallel universes. Where, like, this universe, Mary never made the deal to save the Winchester's dad. So the Winchesters were never born. And so this other universe went to hell in a handbasket.
Wait, so it's a confirmed thing that if nobody, so that like if the Winchesters don't save the world, nobody will.
Kind of.
even
Wow,
though
that's
we
dumb.
still have
Well,
the
because
British
they
Men of
are,
Letters, technically.
So the season 5 End of the World is the one that still happened in this other universe. Only the Winchesters could have done it because they were bloodlined.
Okay.
Yeah, Dean is the rightful vessel of Michael, and Sam is the rightful vessel of Lucifer.
I really
Forgot
didn't
that
like
one.
that they
Yeah.
brought Mary back.
I didn't like that they brought Mary back at all.
If they were going to bring somebody back, they should have brought back Daddy Winchester.
Dad. Yeah. Then again, I do like the idea of getting to know Mary, but like there's so many decisions here that
The
they've actually
whole start
invalidated their
of the
narrative.
show was because of Mary dying.
The start of the show was because of Jess dying. What are you talking
Well,
about?
it was all that was fueled by Mary.
Yeah. But yeah, so these are just some of our examples of like you have to end things if you want to start new things. Or that's what I was getting at when I was talking about comic books. You have to end them before you start new things. Otherwise, fans aren't going to take to the new things.
And there's also just please end it already.
As like going to anime, and with these like shows, I want to point in how artistic significance. Now, artistic significance isn't going to matter to most fans, and I accept that. But it kind of matters to me because I can recognize this is a good ending point, and it would have been a beautiful ending for the series.
One thing that I have realized about series that don't end or that have some sort of unsatisfying end is that it does open up new territory for the fans because they'll write fan fiction, they'll make their art, they'll do stuff like that. Because not all
But
fan
I would
fiction
argue
is
that fan
boring.
fiction isn't necessary.
Well, most of the time we all write fanfic of
I
how
mean, yeah.
we want this to end.
Like
or-
every writer starts off as a fanfic writer.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. Like I wrote fanfic
I
when I was a
mean,
kid
even
of
S.E.
like
Hinton.
Zoids and stuff. Like I loved Zoids.
But even S.E. Hinton wrote supernatural fanfic.
Yeah. So, but I'll argue that that's not necessarily. Because, like, even with the current constraints of the narrative, you can always go back and say, well, what if this happened?
But it's still helping writers bloom and into making new things, new, more interesting things, funner things, stuff like that.
But by doing that, they're also limiting their own story to where there's nowhere they can go but down. Or just, like, now Supernatural is repeating itself.
Well, what I'm
They
saying...
literally just brought Michael back, specifically to possess Dean again.
Well, fanfic writers, what they do is they'll make a new universe, alternate universe ending, stuff like
But
that.
I'm arguing that they don't have to continue the show for that to happen.
No, they don't have to.
Because the show itself is giving the fanfic writers these characters and telling them, yeah, you can do whatever you want.
So
That's gonna happen no matter what they
like-
do. I don't think it's giving them new ground.
No, I'm just
necessarily. They
saying,
can invent
like,
new
these
characters if
shows
they
that
want.
don't end and keep going, the fanfic writers will take it and they will try to make a satisfying ending. They'll try to make a good ending, stuff like that.
But what I'm trying to say is, going on longer isn't necessary for that to happen. And it feels like you're arguing that it does.
I'm trying to word it right, but I don't know how to...
I think that it is up to the fans to decide when something should end. Like,
But, like,
sure,
I
there's
feel
certain.
like they make bad
Well-
decisions when it comes to things going on
Well,
forever.
that's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
I think that, I think I would put a
Because that's the
challenge
only
out to
reason
like.
that Supernatural's gone on as long as it has.
I think that I want to put out a challenge to every listener for, if you have a show that you love and that you think is the best show ever, but you feel like, just analyze it, see where it could have stopped. If you feel like it didn't stop in the right place, or you feel like the ending wasn't satisfying, where could it have stopped that would have satisfied you?
Like, don't ask for a second season if you know that it's going to be terrible, because that's what they did with Black Butler, and we all know season 2 of Black Butler, we don't talk about it.
That's kind of what they did with Heroes.
Yep.
Like season 1 was some of the best. Like season 1 of Heroes was one of the best single series or seasons of any TV show I've ever watched in my entire life. And then season 2, well, it started off on a weird note already because it wasn't meant to be a continuation
Yeah.
originally. But these characters are popular.
Like I said,
and they screwed it over.
Well, I mean,
Like I
even
said, I
Sailor
think-
Moon, when they came out with Super S, that
Yeah.
was the most depressing series ever.
Yeah. So, okay, so we're about 10 minutes over how long we wanted to go. So, if you listening, or any listeners to this, basically, I'm going to reiterate John's challenge. Like, if you have a series that you thought could have ended better,
Look at all the routes it can take.
you know,
stuff like
let us
that.
know. Another story, or another challenge I have is just tell us like other stories that you know that started off great, but should have ended earlier.
Link us to some really good fanfic that ends a series well.
No, link Connor to that. I won't read fanfic anymore. I've had too many bad experiences.
Okay, you can accidentally stumble into porn, but that happens
Accidentally.
sometimes.
Yeah,
Quote,
Connor
unquote.
accidentally. Alrighty, well, does anyone want to plug?
I mean, we do it all the time.
I know.
You're
I just
never
wanna
gonna
make sure.
find me.
Well, if you want to get to me specifically, you can find me on most social media platforms under Justin27M.
I'm under Mad Scientist 369.
And if you want to get to us collectively, all like almost 10 people that have been on these podcasts, you can get to
So
us
many.
at crumbsonthecarpet at 2018 at gmail.com. Crumbsonthecarpet2018 at gmail.com.
If you're listening to this in 2019, it might be updated. It might
It
not
will
be.
not be.
Okay,
because
never
the
mind.
2018 is the year we start.
Okay.
Okay. Anyway, we are the Crumbs on the Carpet podcast, signing out. Thanks for listening.